Hi, folks. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being here. I see there's quite a few people already with us. So, coming from the premiere of episode 302, Cody Drewitz story. So, what did y'all think? Is the storyteller here? Yeah, I thought it was a powerful story too. Acid reflux. We're talking about acid reflux. Huh? Okay. No, that's all right. That's all right. So, anyway, thank you all. Thank you all for being here. So how about a little feedback on this most recent story? It's a little bit longer than most of the stories that we publish in the fentanyl series. Hello, Dawn. Oh no, it never registers to me. Okay, so anyway, I'm a little slow. I went to public schools, so yeah, Dawn was on it. She was. It was. I remember during her interview. Sometimes, oh gosh, sorry, sorry. We have a storytelling summit coming up in Ridgeland, Mississippi next weekend, and there was someone asking me where it's at. Yeah, Don, you did really good, and so it. I remember during your interview that there was. I remember not needing to ask much. Not that there's anything wrong with me asking questions. It's not that's normally the thing. So sorry, I'm watching the news right up there, and just something caught my eye. I should probably turn it off, but I'm not going to do that. So I appreciate you guys being here. So Cody's story had me biting my nails, and I knew the ending. There are many great lessons in his story. Cindy says, "Oh my God, you're going to touch so many people, Miss Dawn." Good job, Dawn. Very, very much a good job. No, Dawn, it wasn't the son who went into her purse. It was the girlfriend who went into the purse. So while I have you guys here, I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming storytelling summit in Ridgeland, Mississippi. And of course, no, I don't have the schedule open, but it is next weekend. Courtyard by Marriott in Jackson, Ridgeland. Jackson, Ridgeland. Well, Don, I think it's going to touch a lot more than just one person. I think that I can tell you where it's at right now. That So far, the story has had over 700 views just since the premiere began. So that's pretty substantial for sure. And it's okay, 702. So Cody is reaching people. And that's really that's a big deal, I think. Hello, Tammy, Glenn. I would like to know if you could please add FPRCETA. I don't know how to decode that, but I'm working on it. Brianna says, did Cody use a healthcare for mental health? Was he near any VA facility? Congress recently passed the PACT Act to fund mental health for veterans. So, Don, Cindy is suggesting that you go into schools and talk to students if you haven't done that, and that would be that would be a good thing. You would. I think that your delivery is at such a pace that there isn't much of an opportunity for the teenagers to get distracted, and there's something to be said for that for sure. So I see that we have over 30 people in this live event right now, and we have 9 thumbs up. I just have to point that out once in a while. Dawn says, Cindy, that is what I plan to do. So, Dawn, the organizations like Fentanyl Fathers could help you with that as far as getting into schools go. That is their mission is to bring fentanyl awareness presentations to every high school and every middle school in the United States. And they're working adamantly. We're working on it adamantly. I'm on the board of directors for Fentanyl Fathers. And I'm just glad to do what I can. I'm a little bit of a special case because I'm not a bereaved parent, and I don't want to be. So I do what I can. All right, Tammy, I don't know what FPRCE stands for. So, Kimberly says Glenn is a lifesaver. Holy cow. I'm very blessed to get to do what I'm doing. I really am. Brenda's asking, Dawn, do you remember how long Cody's at-home detox lasted? So, Dawn, that is, we have I'm laughing because your name didn't register to me as a storyteller. I never made the connection, and I know I've seen your name in these live events lots of times, and I don't know. Viola Miro, welcome. Good evening. Late arriving in this session. Got to go back and watch. Sounds like a veteran was involved. That's correct. I'm a veteran, retired from the VA. Gonna go and watch it now. Curious. It is a long one, Viola. It is almost 45 minutes long. And and not that that's a warning, but you're going to be away from the live event for quite a while if you go watch it now. Only Brenda says, Dawn, I agree. I only suggest faith-based long-term rehabs now. Now that's an interesting that's an interesting angle. There are in our comments, in the comments that we get on the stories on our channel, a lot of times we will read comments from people who are really critical of faith-based rehab, faith-based anything, really. And it's kind of funny to me that they feel the need to announce that, yeah, they don't have faith. Like there's some sort of reward in ridiculing people who do have faith. It's peculiar. It doesn't go the other way. You don't hear people with faith ridiculing those without. So it's weird. Dawn, thank you. People are always asking me, and mine took 2 weeks because I'm older, so my metabolism has slowed. Now I can tell them a week if they are young. Okay, then. There you go. Yeah, Tammy, I'm sorry, it wouldn't let me finish. So I was trying to say, let's get some warriors to save those kids on datelines that are offered drugs. Yeah, that dating connections. There's there was a news report just a day or two ago about how people are meeting others in person less and less, and that as far as dating as far as romantic interest, that kind of thing, that there's less and less of that going on, and instead they're meeting on dating apps and in a dating app, the thing that stands out to me about it is it's a lot easier to be brave. It's a lot easier to say things that you wouldn't say in person. It's a lot easier to offer someone drugs. It's a lot easier to ask them if they'd be interested in trying some drugs, to promote drugs and that kind of thing. It's interesting. Kimberly says, I believe with praying without ceasing. Good one. Brenda, from my contact with so many people, I feel faith-based are the ones who work. I can see that. I think that there's a commitment element that, I don't know, maybe faith-based rehabs are a filter in themselves, because if a person chooses it because it's faith-based, they've already made a commitment to their faith. And so that commitment thing isn't such a stretch. You follow what I'm saying? Lila says, I agree. Dating apps are dangerous. Kimberly says, Dawn and Glenn, my barber college instructor that I am working with, just started a transition housing for vets. Now, I bet there's some really good stories that vets could share. It just seems like it. Whenever I hear about vets, it makes me think of a state representative in Kansas that I met. We did an interview with him. He talked about the Good Samaritan law in Kansas and that he played a significant role in getting passed. Really, really nice guy. Very, very much an open book to talk to. And I was talking to him about how we do these stories on our channel, and how someone else in part of someone else that was part of the storytelling summit in Kansas had told me that one of his causes is veteran PTSD, veteran mental health, veteran suicide. And as we started talking about that, this state representative standing on the lawn of the state capitol of Kansas, he started to cry. Don says, Brenda, it was a horrible experience detoxing him. Once he was, I had to make him go everywhere with me and my sister. We went to the hospital to start her heart transplant journey and then passed away. All gave some gave all. Thank you to all vets for their service. Sometimes I know people that know people as, okay, I'm guessing there's more to that. I don't know how to interpret that, but okay. I'm sure there's more information to follow. Northern Ruins. Hello from Alaska. Been watching this channel for a few months now. Northern Ruins. So, how did you come to this channel? You know, a few months ago, we published a documentary that we made in Alaska, primarily in Anchorage, and Girdwood. Does that sound right? And maybe that was how you found out about us. Maybe. There's several stories. We have several stories on our channel that are from the greater Anchorage area. Viola says, I worked on the veteran suicide hotline before retiring. Actually, that position convinced me to retire back in 2021. I left the job in tears every night. And Kimberly used to volunteer for veterans. There is a wonderful amount of generosity demonstrated toward veterans in a lot of different spaces. And I think that really sends a powerful message of support, even when it's something as simple as a restaurant that offers a discount for veterans. Dawn says it's hard to keep up, but thank you to everyone who has watched and supporting me through this. So Dawn, what was the interview experience like for you when we recorded your interview? How was that? Was it easy? Difficult? I know that the subject is challenging, of course, but the process, how was that? What can you share with the other people here in the group about what that was like? Brenda says, Don, bless your heart. I'm so sorry you experienced losing your sister. I'm amazed Cody was able to go with you to appointments. I spent most of my detox days on the John throwing up in a trash can. Oh, that's glamorous. Brenda says generosity comes because we treated Vietnam vets so poorly when they returned home. Uh, Tammy says, I would say 1,000 words to say how much you mean to me. And then Mubar. I don't I don't know how to interpret that. Mubr. But maybe okay. So Kimberly Smith says, Brenda, my stepfather was a veteran when got his discharge. Ask me again what the question was. Okay. What was the okay? What was the interview process like? What was the interview experience like for you when we recorded your story? Was it difficult? Was it easy? I know the topic isn't easy, but the process. What was the process like as an experience? Because we work hard to make the process as invisible as it can be. Hello, Brad. Good to see you here. Brenda says, Dawn, I would have died sitting in a waiting room during detox. I know. I now think Cody's detox was worse than mine. Just because he was sitting in the waiting room while he's enduring the whole detox process. And Brenda asks Dawn, how's Tyler doing? Dawn says the interview process was great. You were so patient. There were times when it was really hard just because it's so raw, real, and emotional. What I find is most of the time storytellers are really dying to let their story out, dying to share their story about their loved one, dying to share their story about their experience in recovery, or whatever it is their story is. They're longing for that opportunity to share it someplace with in a receptive environment. It's not really sharing with me. I'm the face they focus on, but it isn't really sharing with me. It's understanding that it's sharing with an audience on YouTube. This is a way different thing. Carla, I don't know if Carla is here or not. I haven't seen her screen name. I appreciate you guys all being here and the 15 likes, 31 in the group, 15 thumbs up. So But I know it's peculiar. There's some trick to get to the thumbs up while you're watching the live. And so I get that it's behind the chat window or something. And so for those of you, here's the thing that I often announce in the live events. If you're watching on a smart TV, you can still participate in the chat by watching on your phone at the same time. Just open the same event and you can see the chat on your phone and see the live event on your smart TV. So Brenda says, Kimberly, what branch was your stepdad in? My dad was in the Army. He was dishonorably discharged. My stepdad was in the Marines. He did two Vietnam tours and was honorably discharged. And of course, Viola says, hit the thumbs up. Brenda says, Don, please tell me that is a four-legged wild Mustang and not a 404 horsepower Ford Mustang. What? Mustang? What? I certainly feel like I missed something if we're talking about cars again. Kimberly's stepdad was in the Army in Germany. April Smith says, please don't forget to like the video. Yes, for sure. The video needs thumbs up. Definitely. Be sure to give a thumbs up on the video. Let's see how the video is doing now. The video has had over 1,100 views so far. Cody's story has had over 1,100 views. And lost one subscriber. I don't get that, but okay. So some of the comments, somebody said, these are the type of storytellers that make a great listening experience. Very enlightening. Learned so much from this story. Thank you. How cool is that? Hello, Carla. Thank you for joining us. We were starting to wonder and say, yeah, we have coffee mug. Yes, we do. Brad says, okay, that's a bad discharge. What is going on here? Sorry. So Don, horses offer great support. It's great that you and Tyler are each other's support system. All right, so there's a couple of comments that say that the story was hard to watch. But it isn't. It's not complaining about the story. One of them says, probably one of the hardest ones that I have ever watched are these stories. But I feel sure what the commenter means by that is that it was impactful. And the very next commenter, a different person, said, "That was tough to watch. Don, you did a great job. And I know Cody is so proud of you." Another person said, "Thank you for sharing." I see Don has already replied to that one. Brenda says, "Brad, can you tell? I can tell you he was Fort Knox jail. I forget the military calls jail. Before his discharge, brig is the word for jail. Is brig just a Navy term, or is that I don't know." Viola, guess I'd better get my tissues out. Gonna watch it when we are done here. The brig is jail. Okay. So now the views are over 1,200. And so if you go and look at the count in the yeah, I see a background, a kind of a like an administrator's view. So I get to see extra information that isn't public. But according to my display, the story is over 1,200 views so far. Brenda says, "Brad, you're fine. I've done all the trauma therapy for the chaos he caused. What branch did you serve in, Mr. Brad?" Pretty sure Brad was in the Air Force, but it still counts, right? You guys know I'm kidding, right? A little black book stash in the drawer. I suppose we all have our uh, secrets. Uh, Dogs. Sorry. I don't know why they're barking. My stepdad a little, it all counts. Kimberly, if the comment was on the story, I have to look after this live. Thank you so much for all your support and kind words. I love you and Brad. So funny. Yeah, we have a great time. I always appreciate seeing Brad here. Okay, so there we go. There's Brad's 40 years of work history, which that explains the whole age thing and the walker. So, Viola, thank you for confirming brig is the word I was looking for. Get tissue before starting Cody's story because you will not want to pause once it is started. So, Brad, seriously, thank you for your service. No, they are not mean dogs. Well, gee, Brianna, there's a good. No, I can't. Or maybe nobody has ever disliked one of our stories. I think about it that way. But if I look at the display, there's not there isn't any information that's directly related to dislikes. I have never seen anything that says there's been a dislike other than in the creator information we're seeing. Maybe we'll see the dog later. In the creator information, there is a likes versus dislikes. And so I guess if it's not 100%, the ratio likes versus dislikes, then there must be some dislikes that's offsetting that 100% mark. So, yeah, we have likes versus dislikes. Cody's story right now is at 100% likes. And as we go down, there's 97% likes, 96% likes, 100% likes, 98%, 95%, 100%, 99%, 100%, 99, 100, 100, 98, 99, 100, 97. So 87. Wow, there's one that's got 87%. Maybe that I don't know. I don't know how they calculate that, but anyway. Brenda's supposed to be a great cook. Yeah, well, I'm sure she is. I feel like Brenda has a wealth of knowledge that must certainly contribute to her her what would you culinary skills. Brenda says, Carly, you're doing therapy. Are you doing therapy for your PTSD? I did only therapy. They wanted me on medication and I refused. The only dislikes would only come from cannabis defenders. Prayers up for my almost 69-year-old brother that still smokes whatever he can get off the streets of Atlanta. Tammy says, no, you know my favorite, but I've had true feelings for all of these families. My heart breaks for all of them. Yeah, mine too. Mine too. They are there's a special thing about the families that share their stories here in that it's their choice to share their story. They're taking their terrible loss and turning it into something that has value to other people. they've had their loss, but they're still giving consideration to other people. That's a pretty admirable thing. Carla says, Brenda, I went a few times, but stopped shortly afterwards. They can't bring rain back. Nothing will. So I don't feel like it helped. I may try again later. I think there is, Carla, I think that there is I think there's a value to herding is what I've heard it referred to, like going to the rally in DC and doing get-togethers that are related to fentanyl in wherever, that getting together with others who you have this common bond with is a form of herding. Like a herd of cattle. Not no, I'm not calling you a cow. But herding, there is some strength in that. That's part of the magic that happens when we do our storytelling summits. In the other room, the room outside of the room where we record the interviews, there is a waiting room where storytellers will hang out before their interview appointment, and oftentimes after, when they're done, when they've done all the business they came there to do, they stay and they visit with other families, other moms, other storytellers. So it's not uncommon at all to see someone in the room where people wait an hour or two after they recorded their interview, still just staying there and enjoying the camaraderie, the connection, the bond. Brad says, I had PTSD from just missing a Scud missile and then picking up body parts during Desert Storm. I never want to do that again. Wow, Brad. I don't know what to say to that. Brenda says, Carla, you have to keep going back until you find the therapist you click with. Don't listen to this BS that your therapist needs to be the same sex as you. I went through many therapists and finally found my guy. He's black, divorced, loud, and don't tolerate my BS. I love him and still see him monthly. Well, yeah, having 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 a therapist that suits you, having a therapist that has the kind of demeanor that you connect with, or maybe the kind of demeanor that triggers you in a way that is constructive. Either one would have value, I would think. Brenda says, Brad, I'm sorry, and I never want you to experience that again. Thank you for protecting my freedoms for me. And Tammy says, really? while they as me if I want to donate my daughter's organs? I was 22. Wow, that's harsh. Viola says hanging out with storytellers could only help. Yeah, I think so. I see it a lot. I see it at virtually all of our summits. Black Rain, good to see you here again. Thank you for joining us. Viola says, Brenda, I love you. So sorry, Tammy. Says Don. Brad says, thank you, Black Rain. Viola says, no nonsense therapists are the best. I appreciate mine. And Tammy says, I'm going to therapy and I believe in it. And I think that's important. There's good reason to believe in therapy. It's credible. And having that opportunity to be guided through sorting out whatever kind of chaos is in your mind, which we all have, having someone with a bit of training guide you through a path to sort that out is vitally important, I think. Kimberly says, I suffer with PTSD. And Don says, I had a therapist when we lived in Wisconsin, but am now looking for one in Alabama. So Brad says, Tammy, tell me your story. So Brad has promoted himself to doing interviews, it looks like. Brenda says, I went to a therapy session with my older sister. Her therapist was this tiny little woman dripping in diamonds and had on Mary Faye makeup. I was ready to leave after 5 minutes. My sis stayed with her. Well, whatever works for her. You know, maybe the Tammy Faye makeup thing can be something that is maybe it's just a great don't let this happen to you message. Maybe. You're welcome to share your story, Tammy. You're certainly welcome to. Brad is a good guy. You can find Brad in Rain's story. See, here's the thing about the dogs. They're on the first floor here at Texas Pictures headquarters. I'm on the second floor. One of the three dogs can navigate the stairs, but just one. The other two cannot. So yeah, Tammy, feel free. Feel free. We have that kind of time. Well, Carla, if you don't feel strong, it's because you're not paying attention. That's really it. You're not giving yourself enough credit. You're still here. You You have to be strong. And you're clearly very strong. Brenda says, Dawn, good look. The therapist world is finally getting some much needed publicity. Also, if you can do online appointments, it makes it easier if you decide you don't like the therapist because you don't have to fire them in person. Is that what you're saying, Brenda? Tammy says my daughter was born 5 months early. She lived only I believe I've heard some of this. She lived only uh, Brenda says, Carla, none of us feel strong all of the time. Late at night after the kids are in bed is a great time to feel not strong. I have a lot of times not feeling strong. But we're not going to get into that. So, Dawn says, yes, I did online in Wisconsin. I do prefer face to face, but it's all good. Tammy says she was only 2 years old. And Brad is asking what happened, or asking if he can ask what happened. Dawn says, nights are the worst for me, Brenda. I cry a lot. Sleeping does not come easy. Nights are the worst for me, Brenda. I cry sleeping. So here's nights are that's a at night. That's sort of like when you unclench, when your day is done and you don't have to stand up straight. You don't have to be strong. You're shutting down for the day, and I think more things get released. Brad says most people don't know this, but Carla lost Rain at 19, but she lost her first baby at 3 months old. Yeah, I knew that, and that's so rough. Brenda and Glenn, if I didn't have my higher power. Dawn and Carla, Brenda says Dawn and Carla, nights are the worst for us because deep down we know the sun will come up, but the world will still be missing our loved one. Sleep starts to feel like something other people do. And Tammy says, and then after she got, did I miss one? She's only 2 years old. Tammy says after she got run over, and then why did God let her die? Is that what you're asking, Tammy? I'm not sure. There we are. Okay. So Viola says, what I do is set my clock at 2 a.m. I force myself to get up and pray. Been doing it all this year. Then I sleep better. And Dawn says, I'm so sorry, Tammy. That is horrible. There's some things about the power of prayer that merit some discussion. Not really about faith, but about the thought organizing action of prayer. Because if you think about the prayer process, typically prayers begin with gratitude. What are you thankful for? And so a prayer will begin with, thank you, Heavenly Father, for all of my gifts, and then naming off the gifts that are most prominent in your head that day. So the very first thing is telling yourself what you have to be thankful for. And then the next part of the prayer is typically what you want help with, what you want guidance for, what you want to happen next. And the course of sorting out that part of the prayer is basically making a list of priorities in your head. And then you conclude with more gratitude. So there's a good mental exercise to the organization of prayer. It seems to me. Okay, I'm sure I missed some. Oh, there they go again. I'd swear it happens way more when I'm live than any other time during the day. Brad says he's Carla's dad, and he still worries about her every day. That's being a dad. Good job, Brad. So, Tammy, you will probably have to wait until you're in heaven to find out why your baby was taken too soon. Carla says, thank you, Viola. Carla, you know the unhoused people are very grateful for what I am doing. I am sure. And Tammy says, my boys. Brianna says, I choose not to pray, but I do other things. It's not really about the prayer. It's about having well, they call it an attitude of gratitude. You hear that a lot. Having an attitude of gratitude you the other thing that I hear a lot. I'll try again. The other thing that I hear a lot is you attract what you dwell on. And so if you dwell on things that you're grateful for, you will attract more things to be grateful for. Brenda says, Viola, if I am still awake at 1 a.m., I go into constant prayer. I have no idea when I fall asleep during and right after a detox, I would hear my hubby's alarm at 5 a.m. and realize I had just prayed nonstop for 5 hours. That has to have great value. So Viola says, yep, an attitude of gratitude. Brenda says, Brad, I decided to start a 5-year plan tomorrow. Today, I was just too busy to focus on something that needs my full, undivided attention. So, the dogs bark more at night because there are probably more animals outside, like squirrels, possum, and the neighbors' cats. Carla says, I don't want to keep trying different therapists. I hate having to explain my life and what's going on more than I have to. I'd rather talk to someone who understands grief and understands child loss. Well, Carla, there is I think there's a therapeutic kind of thing that happens when you repeat your story. Every time you tell your story, I think there's I don't know, it doesn't seem right to say there's a perk to it, but there is something of value in telling your story, even if you've told it a lot of times. I think there's a little bit of healing, probably just temporary kind of healing feeling, but that's still something. Don says grief is hard and a loaded topic feeling. My body has physically suffered, and then days will be okay, and others I can't imagine making it through. And Carla said, I feel that completely, Dawn. And Brenda said, Carla, type up a summary of your life and why you are seeking therapy, then send this to prospective therapists in the form of a letter or email and see how they respond to your introduction. Yeah, see, you would only have to write that one time. So I can see a benefit to that. On the other hand, it also sounds like homework. But I can definitely see a benefit to that. That seems like a good idea. Carla, it is so hard and there is absolutely no time limit. There's an expression that grief is love with nowhere to go. I think when you say that, but so Carla, you should check out with your insurance about therapists. And Viola says, listen, guys, focus on what you have overcome. Me, kicking smoking pot habit, overcoming breast cancer. I'm still here. Good job. That's awesome. That is victories. That is something that you should celebrate. I mean, don't run around like a moron and talk about yourself all the time, but embrace that. I mean, what a thing to be grateful for. Good stuff. My mother here says, I think repeating a life story over and over has great value. It is. It seems like there is a good exercise to that. A good organizing your thought process, reminding you all the things that are a priority in your life, but without being stuck in the past. Brad says, I took Carla to grief share because she wouldn't go alone. Yeah, that's one of those father things. That's a great job to step up and do that. Come to Houston and I'll go with you. Or next time I'm in Oklahoma City, I'll go with you too. So Kimberly says, I believe in repeating stories, repeating your life story. And Brenda is talking to my mom. She's asking, well, I lost it now. Mama Muse, how you doing tonight? When are you? And Brad asks, when are you coming through Oklahoma City? I don't know. I'll be in Jackson, Mississippi at the end of this week. Feel free to, just zip on over to Jackson and we'll have us a nice dinner somewhere. It's Jackson. How bad could it be? How far could it be? Just a couple of states, right? Don says, I agree, Lila. I pretty much tell my story of Cody to everyone I talk to when I'm out and about. That is the thing that I hear more and more storytellers talk about, how they will wind up giving impromptu presentations all kinds of places. Mike Land talks about telling his story during a flight on I think it was Southwest Airlines. He got they gave him the PA system, and he told the story to the ultimate captive audience who are trapped on a plane, and so cool story. I thought cool story about telling a story. He's just constantly looking for opportunities to share his story. Lila says, embrace. Yes, Glenn. Tammy says, grief defines me, and I love you surrounded by all of our family that has lost people. I meet so many incredible people doing this. It's really amazing. Viola says, hey, Mom. Brad says, Brenda, honestly, it was too depressing for me. Nothing positive, just very sad stories. There's a thing to that. it is possible to become so consumed with your pain, whatever your pain is. It's possible to become so consumed with that you can't look beyond it. And it's important to look beyond it. Viola says, Mom, thanks for Glenn. Lila, I second Viola's motion. Thank you for Glenn. He's my hero. You guys. Carla. Brad is asking Carla. Carla got quiet. And there goes the dogs again. I don't understand that. I don't understand that at all. Viola says, I tell my story whenever I go, wherever I go. Kimberly says, I know Cody was a great role model for the kids. Brad, how old is Ivy? I ask because I may have made a Facebook comment that may be above her age level. It is about Noah's Ark. Ivy is 7 years old. Dawn says Kimberly, Cody was a really great kid. He really was funny, loving, handsome, and had the biggest heart. I miss him so much. Viola says, when I watch Cody's story, I'm going to share it with my therapist at the VA. Yep, I am. Well, cool. Let me just have a look and see how. Okay. All right. So Cody's story is over 1,700 views now. Cody is reaching people. Carla, I don't. And Cody's story is also 41 minutes long. She was watching Veggie Tales and she said she'd be upset if God wouldn't let her on the ark back in Noah's time. Carla says, I'm looking for a self cleaning Texas Pictures coffee cup just like this. See, it has a logo on one side, and on the other side, it says Stories That Matter. How cool is that? This is just like a commercial right here. So it is, like Carla said, it is a self cleaning coffee mug. And I know this from my personal experience. All I ever put in here is black coffee and never had to wash it. There's nothing. See, it's all clean in there, you know. Very cool. Veggie Tales. I don't know about Veggie Tales. I'm sure I'm not missing anything. I'm looking for a self-cleaning Texas picture. Okay, I did that. Oh yeah, Don, got you, says Viola. Brad says I'm looking for a hoodie with a zipper. Of course you are, Brad. Yeah. Yeah, and you're up there. You can't pull things over your head like you used to. You really need that uh that level of access. What is the term for the zipper is probably like an ADA thing. You know? Okay, anyway. Do you guys, here's a question from Carla. Do you guys who've lost a loved one to fentanyl feel like antidepressants have been helpful? I've tried so many and there's no relief. I don't know, Carla. I wish I had a good, I wish I had good guidelines that I could give you, but I don't. I know that there are some parents out there who go the other direction and really just campaign. There's constantly looking for opportunities to put their loved one out there to give their loved one some exposure. It's like they're guaranteeing that they're not going to be forgotten. Is kind of how it comes across to me. Dare, Dare, wasn't that a Nancy Reagan thing? Dare, I saw something about Dare today about it being some sort of law enforcement pyramid scheme. That it was a program where law enforcement were able to pick up extra hours or pick it up as an extra job. Research has shown that the DARE program from back 80s and 90s, research has shown that it didn't work, that it had the opposite effect. I could tell you more, but just do a Google search. Did DARE work? And you'll find a lot of information about. I'm sorry, and you'll find a lot of information about DARE, but yeah, that ultimately kids who went through the DARE program were found to be more likely to develop a problem with drugs. What's the traffic like in Houston, Brad? Brad, the traffic in Houston is just non-existent. It's really you never see traffic in Houston, never. Yeah. It'll be great. You come down and have a look. Just come on down. Come on, Brad. We'll have us a great time. Viola says they tried to prescribe me antidepressants while caregiving for my dad, the Vietnam vet. He died at 83, diagnosed with PTSD and diagnosed psychosis. Nope, and nope. And I made it, guys. Good job, Viola, and wonderful, powerful point. Brenda says Xanax did crazy things to me, but it did stop me from crying. I quit taking it after just a couple of months because once I took it, I could run from memories and had to check my phone to see what I did. Okay, that's a little funny. I had to check my phone to see what I did. Little bit funny, yeah. Before going to sleep. Wow. So we are getting closer around the time to wrap things up. I see that we have over 50 people in the room right now. Is there anyone who has questions for me? Maybe questions about Texas Pictures or questions about the most recent story about how storytelling summits work, or maybe some other question or an idea for a topic that we should address. That surely there are some new folks in the group right now. So please feel free to chime in. Remember, you can chime in if you're watching on a smart TV. You can chime in using your phone. Nux, yeah, Brenda. Maybe you've heard from Nux again. Maybe. Brenda says, Carla, with all that said, I tend to be biased because I blame a small part of my addiction on drugs I was given by my doctor for a back injury. And a lot of our stories that involve addiction begin that way, begin with some prescription, some like a tooth extraction or knee surgery or things like that. That's when people first got exposure to an opioid, and that's where their journey really began. Viola says, Dawn, I haven't watched Cody's story yet, but I know it's going to have an impact on me. Trust me, girl. I got you when it comes to the VA. Already feeling it. I'm still back on Brenda's comment. I had to check my phone to see what I did. You know that's a flag, right? Brenda says I haven't heard anything new from our girl Nux. Yeah, yeah. I did. I emailed her whenever I said I did. That would have been, I think, sometime a week or two ago. You know, I can tell you it's crazy the volume of junk email that I get on the email address that is listed on YouTube. And it's from YouTube. I just got one that's saying that the subject line says, a quick observation from your recent upload. That's ridiculous. It annoys me so. So, is there anyone in the group who might have some questions about Texas Pictures or questions about other topics that we do stories on? The cannabis-induced psychosis series has really drawn a lot of attention lately. It's drawn a lot of critical comments from cannabis defenders, and it's certainly an interesting group in a All right. Huh. So anyway, I'm sorry, I got distracted. There's a TV up there, and I just glanced away. Brenda says yes, which is why I stopped taking the Xanax, but then I started trading them for opioids. Hey, I never claimed to be sin-free. None of us are. We were born into sin. That's what they teach us in church. Brad says the government is back open. Now, isn't that exciting? And Viola says, oh yeah, with my bilateral mastectomies back in 2017, they tried to prescribe me all kinds of painkillers and opioids. No. All right. Good job, Viola. That's something that we hear on comments on our channel a lot, is people talking about people in other countries who talk about how in my country, wherever my country is, doctors don't give out opioids like this. That tell you to take Advil or something, and that's it. So Brad says, why is it called Texas Pictures when most of the interviews are outside of the state? Well, Texas Pictures has been around since 2007. We're over 18 years old. When we started, and for the first 15 years or so, the bulk of the work that we did was industrial production, like training and safety videos. Why is the double possessive necessary? The name is really Texas Pictures. Documentaries is kind of put on there as a category. Like if you picture the seal with the star, it says Texas Pictures across the top and documentaries on the bottom. You could swap out the word documentaries with the word investigations or animation, or I don't know what else. But like we have a cartoon on our channel, and in the cartoon, instead of saying documentaries, it says animation. And we have a couple of investigations, and instead of saying documentaries, it says investigation. Hidden camera, pharmacy in Mexico, that kind of stuff. So I'm sorry it drives you crazy, Brenda. I'll just find a little bit of entertainment in that. But the name came from, I am a bit of a Texas history buff, I suppose. Not so much the state, but before the state became a state, it was a country. There was a revolution, and that's where the Alamo happened. It was during the Texas Revolution, which eventually culminated in the Battle of San Jacinto, which happened on April 21st, 1836. Texas Pictures was established April 21st, 2007. And so there's a woven thing. Yeah, let's settle down your OCD, Brenda. Yeah, I just wonder why both ended in S, so I could shorten it to Texas Pictures and yeah, because we are uh, adding the subtitle about documentaries pretty often because most of what we're doing now is documentary stuff. But Juneteenth. You're just trying to torture me now, aren't you, Brad? Juneteenth is the date that the news of the Emancipation Proclamation reached Texas, I believe. Brenda was still getting her master's degree when TPD was formed. Yeah. Huh. Viola says, Glenn, you're the absolute godsend. I mean it. Well, thank you, Viola. I appreciate that very much. So I find it interesting that our audience grows. It grows progressively over time. We're over 50 viewers right now. And we've been here for over 90 minutes. And we're about to wrap it up, but it seems like there's a trend that somewhere around 8:40, the audience started to climb pretty substantially. And I'd sure like to understand why. Brad, Juneteenth is a national holiday now, thanks to Texas. Keep it alive since the end of the Civil War. April to June is how long it took to get the word to Texas. That sounds right. I think that's right. Okay, folks. Well, we have like I said, we have been here for 95 minutes. Brad says good night, all. Good night, Brad. Appreciate you being here. Brenda says it's like last call in a bar. Nobody has bought a drink in a bit, but as soon as last call is said, and they all want in. Yeah, maybe that is it. So it is time to wrap it up for tonight. I appreciate you guys being here, all 59 of you right now, and the 24 thumbs up that we have. So, when we wrap up here, you can hit that thumbs up like button. Dawn says, I want to thank everyone for joining in, your support and kind words. Yes, it has been wonderful talking with you folks, and always a great time getting to visit with you. And Brenda says, the wonderful close that Brenda always shares, what you take for granted, someone else is praying for. God bless each of you. So that's a great way to close things out. I always like to remind folks that we are here for you guys anytime. You can reach us by email at info@texas-pictures.com. You can find us on Facebook under my name, Glenn Muse. And you can visit our website to learn more about us, texas-pictures.com. You can find information about how to share your story. There's a link to our merchandise store on the homepage. And there's more information about us, like our mailing address and that kind of thing. So please feel free to explore. So thank you all again for joining us. And we will see you next time. Good night, folks.